All right, what's up, y'all? It's Nasty Nate, and welcome back to the That Talk podcast. If you're new, please consider checking out all of our social media channels. I have a YouTube, Nasty Nate. I've got Instagram at Nasty Nate Jr., Facebook at Nasty Nate Jr. Everything is at Nasty Nate Jr. Subscribe to the YouTube, and if you're, like I said, if you're new here, drop a comment on a YouTube video, leave a review on the podcast if you feel like you're getting some value from it, if you feel like something touched you or something, spoke to you in this episode or any of the other episodes that I have, and go ahead and check those out too. Today, man, this video, this subject, this episode, I'm debating on doing this one for a long time, but I feel like it's time, and I feel like I'm doing a lot of people an injustice that possibly feel the same way I do. So I feel like I just got to bite the bullet and do it. And today I want to talk about the gap between the millennial generation and our parents. And this one has always been an interesting subject for, a lot of people, including myself. I just want to basically give you a little background on me, how I grew up, my family life, and I feel like I can get some context that way. So I was born in Tualatin, Oregon. I lived there for about 10 years. I felt like, I had a decent childhood. I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I always had food on the table. I always had a roof over my head. I always had all the stuff that I wanted. I didn't get told no a lot. My dad was always working. We always had money. We lived a quote unquote good life. But in the fact that my dad was always working, he was never home. So even though my dad was in my life, I was basically raised by my mom, who did an amazing job. I couldn't have literally asked for a better mom. She was always there for me. She always made sure I was taken care of. She always made sure I was clothed. She always made sure I was clean. She always made sure, I was, mentally and emotionally okay. But I really didn't get anything from, and this is no fault. I don't want people to think. I've gotten a lot of different feedback from talking about my childhood. I don't want people to think that I'm talking shit about anybody at all, ever. I'm talking about my experiences and the things that I've been through, so I hopefully can help somebody else. But, my dad just wasn't really there for me in the ways that I needed. And I think that comes with a, on the way to being a father myself, I feel like that comes with a sense of studying your child. And that's what I can kind of pull from it, because, I played sports when I was younger. My dad coached my soccer team, my baseball team, my basketball team. He coached all that stuff. But it was, I didn't see him in the morning. He was gone before I woke up in the morning. Before I went to school, he was gone. I would see him at practice, and then we would come home, and then that was kind of it. I mean, so I would see him at practice. When I was young, I know we spent a lot of time together, but when I started to grow up, I feel like he put this responsibility on himself to give me a quote unquote good life. And I don't think that he knew what that meant to me. I think he knew what it meant to him. And so he tried to chase that, thinking that that was the same thing for me. And to be 100% honest, I didn't really value now. Of course I did when I was a kid. Everybody wants toys and everybody wants shit when they're younger and all this stuff you don't need. But I didn't really value that. I valued more of an emotional connection. So I got that from my mom, and me and my mom are still tied to this day. We talk on the phone every day because my mom spoke my language. Like, she knew I'm just more of an emotional dude. I'm more in touch with my feminine energy, but I'm more of an emotional dude. So my mom was there for me in that way. And so we created this bond that me and my dad just didn't really have. So when I'm, trying to speak my language to him, he's not really understanding me and he's not hearing me, and vice versa. So when he's trying to talk to me, in his language, I'm like, man, we just don't really have anything in common. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I don't know, like, and I feel like what we connected on was sports, because I was involved in sports throughout my childhood, all the way up until I was after I graduated high school, and that was our bonding time. We'd play catch. Baseball was our thing. He'd help me train, all this kind of stuff. He was always at my events, always, never ever missed a game. He would always make sure he wouldn't miss a game, and that's something that I applaud him for. And I think it wasn't until I've kind of gone through this sense of maturity. So I felt like when I was younger, there was really no problems, right? I'm not seeing the things that I'm missing until I start to grow into an adult and I start to think a little more cognitively, a little more about, what do I need for myself? What do I want for my life? All these kind of things. And I was like, wow, like I'm really missing something here. Like, and I think the straw that kind of broke the camel's back was when I was 18, I was supposed to go play baseball, and I got a partial scholarship, and I decided that that wasn't for me. And that was one of the hardest conversations I ever had with my dad, was to tell him that I didn't want to play baseball anymore, because that was what we always connected on. That was what we always talked about. And I wanted to stay home and be a bodybuilder, because that's what I was into at the time. And I was so fucking passionate about it. And he looked at me and said, you better go get a fucking job. And I'll never forget that shit. And I think that was my first sense of, damn, like we really don't, see and speak the same language. There had been times before I was 16 and my parents got separated, and my mom just, wasn't happy with my parents' marriage, and I could see it. Kids aren't stupid. I saw that my dad wasn't very nice to her, and it's crazy because, you don't really understand until you grow up. Like, once you really kind of comprehend what actually goes on, you understand it more, and I was just blaming my dad, like, you're a piece of shit, fuck you, fuck this, I'm punching holes in the walls and breaking shit at the house, and doing that whole teenage thing because I'm angry and I don't know how to express myself other than being violent. And my dad would talk shit to me, and he would poke at me and give me all these low blows. And I realize now that he was fucking hurt too. Like, people need to get that less people than we think have ill intention. A lot less people than you think have an ill intention towards you, or whatever they're doing to you. What they're trying to do is meet their needs. But would they, or we, the person on the other end that's getting the negativity, that's getting the hurt, that's getting the blame, we fail to understand, and we fail to step outside ourselves and see that this person, whatever is going on in their head, all they're trying to do is make themselves happy and meet their needs. But if those needs are negative, if those needs are insecurity, if those needs are affirmation or, instant gratification, that's what comes out. So I literally couldn't process this until I was like 20, this year, at 28 years old, almost 29, that my dad was hurt. My dad gave me exactly what his dad gave him. And it wasn't what he needed either. So he was trained. You know, my grandpa was the guy that didn't tell my dad he loved him ever. We just know. It's like, fuck that, dude. Like, when you're a child, like, you need the love from a woman and the love from a man, because the love from the woman gets you in position for your relationships in your life. The love from a man does the same thing, but as self and not as the receiver, as the woman. So we need this shit in our lives. And I don't care what anybody says. You can judge me. You can call me a pussy. You can say whatever you want to say. We need love from our fathers. And I mean love like support. Like, you can do it, son. Like, it's okay, son. Whatever you want to do, son, I support you, son. Like, I felt like, and this is where millennials have the big gap with our parents, is right here. They don't understand that the stuff that they didn't do when they were younger or they wanted to do, they project onto us. Think about it. If your parents aren't financially in a place where they don't struggle, and they tell you that they think that you should do a specific thing, don't you think that they wish that they would have done that? Because where do they pick that out of? Like, oh, you need to go to college and you need to get a degree and you need to work here so you can have this. What? Where did you come up with that? You know what I mean? Like, what made you think that I was going to be good at that? What made you think that that's what I wanted for my life? It's not random. And that's what we don't get as the millennial and as the child, is that we don't get that it's not random. Like, they didn't just come up with this shit. Oh, you'd be a great doctor. It's like, where'd you come up with that? That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted for their life. That's what they wish they would have done. That's what someone told them that they should have done, and they didn't do it. So they want to see somebody complete it. And it was always, I love my mom, and everybody who knows me knows that. But on a financial and on a career, on a money making, on an entrepreneurial, on any of that kind of standpoint, my mom does not understand me. Like, she does not understand that I'm not planning on working for somebody, and I will go broke and I will do anything I have to do until I run out of money, until I run out of time, until I go to the grave trying to do this. I'm not going to stop. But the problem is that it's not safe. But the reason that our parents want to see us do stuff like this, and again, what I want here is, I don't want, because this is what I did for a long time and it doesn't work, I don't want this to come off, or I don't want people to think, and I want to kind of change this narrative about fuck your parents, and to understand your parents. Because that's where common ground comes from, is understanding. It's not from you being right or me being right. There is no right and wrong. I don't know where people made up this thing that I have to be right, I have to have the last word. Like, understanding your parents and what they want for you and why they want it for you. Your parents want you, and this is facts, your parents just want you to be okay. They want you to be safe. But we know, with the technology we have in the world that we have today, that okay doesn't cut it. And I know a lot of people that are not okay with an okay life. We're all put here for a reason, and I'm spiritual, and I know not a lot of people are, and I know a lot of people that are, and the difference is okay. But if you think that we just popped up here as a human race, you're missing the whole fucking point of life. Like, I don't know exactly what I believe in yet. I do read the Bible. I practice spirituality. I'm into the talking about like what the universe gives and energy and all this kind of shit. If you think that we just popped up here and we're not here for a reason, you're missing the whole point. Like, everybody has something to serve the masses with. And the masses, serving the masses is what's going to get you paid. Everybody has a specific skill that somebody else can't do that can get you paid. Everybody has a passion that they can turn into something that gets you paid. And to me, that is the whole point. Like, when did we start valuing money in the form that we don't want it in, and opinions in the form that we don't want them in, so much that we live a life that we just barely make it by doing something that we absolutely hate? Like, when do we shift that and to start valuing happiness instead of just being okay? And all this, just recently clicked for me, but, getting to the point that we don't have to be right. We don't have to prove anything to our parents. If that's your motivation, go ahead. I don't have this motivation to prove anything. I just have this motivation of understanding and coming to the point where, I have these, waves where I'm like, I don't want to explain myself. Don't ask me about this. Don't ask me about what I'm doing. But it's like, I don't want that. I don't want that. Like, we need to, and anybody that's in tuned into my speaking, I have a message about don't count the reps. Like, you have to get whatever goal you have. If you really want it that bad, you have to get lost in it. You can't continue to count how many times I've did this, how many times I've did that, how many times I've told you, how many times I tried to explain it to you, how much money I've invested, blah, 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 blah. You start to resent the goal when you count. And so, I just continue, I have different, I wouldn't say issues. I'm not exactly sure what to describe the word as, but I have different things that I work on with both my parents. My mom being, she wants me to have insurance. She wants me to be okay. That's what she's saying. She wants me to have a steady income. She wants me to be okay, right? Those are all things that I switch my perspective on. Is that I used to go from, you don't believe in me. You don't believe in me. You don't think I could be an entrepreneur. You don't think I can make my own business. You don't think I can make my own money because you can't do it. And that is such a harsh statement and such a harsh attitude. And I flip my perspective is that my mom just wants me to be okay. And for that, instead of getting pissed off about what she says, I can be grateful and go, wow, like, my mom loves me enough that it's always on her mind to make sure that I'm okay. Like, you go from being pissed off and resenting your parents because they're telling you that, maybe, that's not a good idea. Maybe that's not a good idea. There is people, and I will say even your close family, that could be haters, that could tell you that because they don't want to see you win. But I just choose to see it in a way, especially from, my mom, that she just wants me to be okay. She wants me to be able to do the things that she knows I'm capable of and have the life that she knows I'm capable of. But the risk for her is scary, and that's okay. I have to leave that where it's at. Like, I have to say, that's okay that you're scared of that. I'm not scared of that because I've been without before. And it's crazy is that so has she. But I think the reason that she thinks that way is because she was so without at one point that she never wanted to be without ever again. So she attached herself to the first thing that she could find that would make her okay. And I'm just not willing to do that. I personally, and this is just for my life, and I don't want anyone to get offended, I just personally think that, going out and finding a job is, I still will have to work a job coming out of this pandemic because that was my stream of income, and I want to have a 2-year stream of income so I can buy a rental property. So I will have to go back to a job. But I personally think a job is a low-hanging fruit. They're everywhere. Pick one. Everyone's hiring. It's not the life for me, and the life that I want to build for my son, and the life that I want to build for my family, the rest of my family, and the life that I want to build for my future children after my son. I just don't want to. And, that was kind of the perspective that I look at now with my mom, and the perspective that I look at with my dad in his lack of, I would say, emotional awareness, is that he's doing the best he can. Like, if you think about it, which I have totally called my dad a piece of shit. Totally told him that, he's not this or he's not that, or he doesn't try in this avenue. It's like, some of those things could be the truth, but what does that do for his and mine relationship? It doesn't do anything. All it does is create more resentment, more of a gap. So my question to people is that have this gap, millennials with their parents, and they're not close with their parents, and they don't, get what they need from their parents, the support, the time, whatever it may be, is what are you doing about it? We're the woke generation. We're all the Instagram psychologists. We're all about the energy, all about the mind, all about all this. You do something about it. That is my suggestion. So what I did was, wow, it seems to me like if I have this urge in my head and I feel like I have this responsibility that I was born with, that I've been feeling my whole life, like I'm the different one, quote unquote, don't you think that is a key? Don't you think that is a kind of a hint, kind of a reminder at all times, if you're constantly thinking about it, that you're the one to be the change? Think about that. Maybe you're the one to be the change. Maybe you're the one to step up. Maybe you're the one to take it upon yourself to be your family's leader. And I never ever thought of this perspective. Like, if you have thoughts, they're for a reason. Especially something that is so powerful as to change the dynamic in your family. If you have those thoughts, do something about them. Run with it. And I'll never forget the first time that this clicked to me is that my girl told me, if you have all these thoughts and they're irking you so much and they're making you so upset and they're driving you to insanity, maybe you're supposed to put that crown on. Maybe you're supposed to be the king of your family. Maybe you're supposed to be the one that's going to end this. And I think that it's no coincidence that I'm having a son. I really don't. I think that it's no coincidence that there is a son coming my way. Because it is my responsibility to break the generational shit of toxic masculinity in my family. It's always cracking jokes about girls and women and blah, 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 and sex and all this other bullshit, and working our fucking asses off for a dime just to put a roof over the head. Like, again, no disrespect. Ever, no disrespect. But I just want more. That's all. And deep down, honestly, I know that the people that work, the men that I respect so highly because I've done it in my life, that work and just grind themselves to the bone just to make it by, just to feed their family, I respect you. But when are we going to realize that sometimes, not even sometimes, that all the time, that what our spouses and what our children need and what our families need is fucking time. They need your time. And honestly, what drives me to be an entrepreneur the most is I don't really value the bag anymore. I really don't. My motivation for entrepreneurship and to do videography and to get paid to ride is that I want to make what I make now in half, a quarter, or an eighth of the time that I do at my job. That's it. Like, obviously, I think that there's no doubt of consistency and building, and then building the skill, and things just start snowballing and momentum starts happening and more money starts coming in. I think that there's no denying that. But as of now, if I can make what I make at my job in half the time, that's the point. That is the point. Is that the skill pays more than the job does. That's it. People pay, like my guy Matt Young says, people pay for what they don't want to do or they don't know how to do. That's it. So if I can provide something, videography, photography, for somebody that can't do it or doesn't know how to do it or doesn't have the time to do it, they're going to value me and pay me what I want or what I'm worth or what they think I'm worth. Instead of going somewhere else where I say to them, okay, I need you, pay me what you want. Now I go out and say, you need me, pay me what I tell you to. That's all I want. I'm not interested in foreigns. I'm not interested in luxury houses and luxury apartments and rims on my car. I'm not interested in that. Eventually down the road, if the bag is big enough, it will come. But what I'm interested in is my time. So I can spend my time with my son and my wife and my family and give the time that I needed when I was younger. And by no means, again, did I have a horrible childhood at all. I was fed, I was clothed, and there was a roof over my head. I have everything to be grateful for. Everything to be grateful for. But what was missing was emotional support that I needed personally. As Nate, as who I am. I didn't get the emotional support I needed from my dad. There was things that I needed from him that I needed to talk to him about as a man, and conversations that we've never had. And we probably never will have. But that's okay. Because again, that's where he's doing and he does what he knows. And what is working for him to meet some sort of need, whether it's negative or positive. And I got off track a little bit, but I want to go back to changing. I changed my perspective on what my mom was doing for me. I want to change it on my dad. I had this epiphany. I was driving with him to go do an errand or something or a favor, or I can't remember what it was, but we were together in the car and he was on his phone, which he is a lot. And I just, as well as anybody, it's because it's a distraction of what he doesn't want to think about or things that are going on in his life that he doesn't want to think about. So he plays on his phone, which is fine. Like I said, he's trying to meet his needs. It's nothing against me. And I had this thought and I looked at him and I was like, man, this is what he wants. This is all he wants, is to physically be in a room, in a car, doing something, whether we're quiet or talking with me. That's what he wants. So this whole time, realistically, we're selfish. We don't want to hang out with our parents because we don't agree and because we don't have the same views, we don't have the same values. They don't want to connect emotionally, so we're like, fuck it. I don't talk to my parents because we don't connect and we don't do this, we don't do that. If your parents didn't take care of you when you were younger, and your parents are pieces of shit, this is different personally for everybody, but if you have had bad situations happen to you, or your parents treated you horribly or didn't do anything for you or didn't take care of you, you have every right to do what you need to do. But I think if we have We can find the good in everything and we can find the bad in everything. If you had a good life and your parents just were missing something, give them some grace. Judge at the grace that you need. You're not perfect. You're missing things. Judge them with that same mind and that same lens that you need to be judged on, because we know that we're missing shit.